Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Good Servant Show. And let me go ahead and turn the music off. It is Jesus is the center of our worship today, of course, right? And I'm gonna have Jake and Stephanie on today. And man, it's been a rough couple of days, right, in the mornings, right? And so here, I probably owe you guys this. Here, I'll click the camera. I just want to say thank you for being understanding about the last two mornings, and I think that it's important that that to be convicted on that verse in James chapter 4 about saying where we're going to be, right? Like a month from now, a day from now, a week from now, right? And so it just kind of all fell into place like that. But I just want to say thank you guys for tolerating me over this period of time that we've been doing this. And, I'm going to keep trying my best. But I just want to say that I love you guys. All right. Click off here and get my ugly mug out of here. All right. Let me add Jake and Stephanie. Welcome to the Good Servant Show. Jake, how are you doing today?
Steven, hey, I am doing good. How are you? You know what? Yes. Oh man, no, I'm excited to be here. And man, no, you know what? We're human, man. And I think don't be too hard on yourself. This is God's channel, right? And obviously, He's the center of our worship. And so not throwing any stones over here.
Right. And I think it all works out and the better, right? Every time that I've ever been late, I mean, I don't know about these last 2 days, but there's times where I've been late and it's specifically helped out in a specific way. And so I know that He's in control. Let me go ahead and add Stephanie to the show real quick. Here she's she's backstage. Hey Stephanie, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
I tried to do my serious face. You guys didn't see it? My serious face.
Is that your stern face?
Yeah.
Oh, what? No way.
I'm trying to look like.
Oh my gosh, that's.
You have one of those things where you can't really look serious.
I'm trying to look like my avatar. See how I did the frown?
I'm driving right now, so I probably shouldn't. But here we go.
Okay, yeah.
There we go. Hello.
Look at us, man. Well, see, I have this little mad face on right there, so people think I'm serious, but I can never hold that. That's not reality right there.
That's funny.
I could never hold that serious face,
You know what's so funny about this too? Because we see when we talk, we see each other's avatars, and even with Stephanie, obviously I've never seen her in person, and we've talked for thousands of hours. Right. And it's but we made a joke do you even have legs? You don't even just seeing you guys in person would be so weird. What? You can walk and you have all that? What? You're human too? Wow.
You know what that reminds me of?
I thought you were only a voice and an avatar.
You know what that reminds me of? Is on Sesame Street, right? Way back in the day, right? Kermit the Frog, you only really seen him as a puppet, right? But on the Muppet movie, he was riding a bike and it was Kermit Longlegs trying to ride that bike.
Yeah, his legs look so weird. Yeah, they look so weird.
And so his real life legs were weird in person.
I never saw that. I guess I was too. I mean, I've heard about it obviously, but I was Barney in Power Rangers. I never got to the Sesame Street.
Oh yeah, it's freaky, man. It's he's a little puppet with human long legs, man.
It's so weird because he was on Sesame Street. I forget that all the time.
Oh my god!
Weird.
And it makes it more weird now because obviously we know the ideologies behind these shows and what they're really doing with them. So there's some creepy stuff going on. I don't know. It's just obviously when there's some Satanism involved in these shows, and I even watching modern SpongeBob is scary. Not scary. That's not the
okay.
Right
that is really
weird.
Right.
It's
yeah. Well, that's just straight. They're using what is it called? Sandy Bottom Like, just there's a lot of like dirty little ins, and it's not good.
Yes,
It's just not good.
all over the place. Well, if
Yeah.
you think about it, right? Think about how immature, right? Because they laugh at like, toilet humor, that kind of thing, right? But like, think about dinosaur, right? The word dinosaur, right, or dinosaurus, right, or something like that, right? Dino, it's Odin flip, right, or do in sore ass, right? It's a what
Kind
do
of
you
like
call it?
Uranus.
Yeah,
Wait,
Yeah.
what?
if you flip the words around, it's like dino is like do it, like an anagram for like do in
What?
sore ass dinosaurs. It's so
What in the
messed up,
world?
right?
I never
Yes.
even. Well, what's weird about that is
No, but they
I
do
actually
that
do
about
believe that
everything.
dinosaurs are in the Bible, like in Job, like it says that there's these these creatures that have tails like a cedar and they walk over the rivers. And but as far as when
Like,
Adam named the animals, like I don't know if maybe there was a different name for dinosaurs, or
See,
like
I could go either way on that because of what you said. I used to listen to like Kent Hovind, like, or I think that's his name. I can't remember. When I very first um like found God, I listened to him, and
yeah.
what I liked is like, so I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, that makes sense, because his take was like that dinosaurs existed with humans. And then I actually got to the truth because you just keep going and you realize everything's a lie, right? Then I realized, well, that
Yeah.
can't be right because the earth isn't even a spinning ball. But so
Right.
anyways, but I'm not okay, it's just not a hill I'm gonna die on. Like, it doesn't matter one way or another. I lean more
right.
towards it's probably all fake, and because they don't even have any real bones, right? They're all made of
Mhm.
that whatever. But I mean, in the Bible, it talks about the Leviathan. Like, it doesn't really talk about
Yeah.
dinosaurs. It talks about like the swinging tail. But I mean, that could be. I mean,
Behemoth
you just
too.
think it's okay. You would think that if there were actual dinosaurs, like there would be a lot more. Like, it would be about men fearing
Right.
giant animals,
Right.
or you know what I mean. It wouldn't be like
Yeah.
the small amount that it is there.
There's a
So
good
I just
possibility it's symbolic for something. And I'm the same way as you, where it's like I don't really have an opinion either way. It's like sure it
right,
could, if not, whoop de do kind of a thing. But of course, like the way they want to get people's, I think, like brains oriented towards archaeology and evidence, so Satan can start to plant these seeds for the great
Sure.
deception later on, and believe that this Earth's been around for billions of years and all this
right.
stuff,
See,
right?
Mhm.
Like just like
exactly.
they want to try and I think that's the danger of where the deception starts to seep in there of all this history and archaeology, where they can just manufacture
Well, think
that.
about this. Think about this, right? Like, just to even say that there was death before sin makes God a liar from the beginning, right? Like, there was no death in this world until Adam sinned, right? So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be possible for anything to be alive prior to Adam and then die, right?
No,
Like,
and I don't
off the
know, and I just think they didn't exist. I think it's all a lie, right? But
yeah,
also, it's not something okay, like to prove God or to like prove something. I wasn't there. I don't actually know. Like, it's not something like the Bible I can prove, right? The truth you can prove. I believe that they didn't, but I wouldn't argue about that. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Like,
I wouldn't
my
die on
daughters
that
don't
hill.
believe that they're
It's
real.
not a hill
Like,
to
they think
die
it's
on.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
not. Like, I tell my daughters they're not real. Um,
Yeah.
because as far as biblically, I don't even lie because it helps with Jesus. Like, you can't believe in dinosaurs all those millions of years. Because the thing is, okay, say they did exist with humans, and that's how Ken Hovind he explains it, and I'm like, okay, well, it does make sense that way. But then if you really think about it, then why would they? It wouldn't be like it is. Like, it's
yeah,
basically to try to disprove God, like they existed first. So even if you try to say, well, they did live with them, but then there wouldn't be a reason to lie about it like they do. So I think that it's not true. I think it's a lie, like everything else. But again, I
Hmm.
wouldn't sit there and like battle somebody about that, right?
Right. Yeah. If
Yeah.
there's no
right,
fruit in that, and what would it even prove one way or the other?
And I
It's
even
not
would
right.
gonna.
like the shape of the earth because people, you can prove that, right? But I wasn't like we'd have to be living back then to prove, right? So it's just not somewhere, just in my heart. I just know it's a lie, like a lot of things, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a hard one for me to even want to look into that, right? It was hard to let go of that. But in reality, now looking back, right? It's like, how did I ever believe that? That's where I'm like, how did I ever believe that, right?
Right.
Like I did for so long and thought it was brilliant, you know? Like, I mean, I'm like, oh yeah, this is all real, you know? But like now that I look back on it, I mean, no evidence for motion ever. Like the photographs
Yeah.
on my mantle never fall off. We're flying around 22 million miles a day.
Because
That's that's
why would they lie? Like, why would the reason,
to
like, of
hide
course it
God.
seems silly now, but when you think about it, it's not like we're going to go in just thinking from the get-go everything is a huge lie. It's just
I
they
know
make it sound like so impossible to understand. That's why, you know, and I was never good at like I was great at math because, you know, there's an answer, like it's true. Like 1 + 1 is 2, right? Like there's
Yeah,
just
it's
answers.
black and
But
white.
I just, yes, I was never good with like all of like the science parts and
I would tune
my
out.
friend, yeah, she was so good. And it's because she had a photographic memory. But me, I have to know like I always, and I still in this way, like in order to learn something, I have to know why it is that way. Does that make sense? You can't just tell me something and I'll just memorize it because that's it. I want to understand like why it is that way, and that's how it'll, you know, that's how it stays
Yeah.
in like, you know, that's
Right.
even like about Jesus. Like it never hit home because I was like, okay, well, he died for our sins because we're sinners. Now we'll go to heaven if we say we believe. But why? Like, what is it behind that? And when I really understood that, that's when I was like, you know, so
Right.
and then now I just realized I didn't understand it because it's a lie. Like it's a bunch of just like jibber jabber
Oh,
that
it's
they
just
say to
religion.
sound smart. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Right.
all this crazy history. I mean, and then they change it. I mean, I can't believe we didn't notice how much they change it. What we learned in school to what the kids are learning now. It's different bullcrap, right? It's still lies, right? But it's even different than what we learned, you know? And
It
like
is.
they don't even keep it consistent, you know?
Mm.
It's all this, you know, I
Yeah.
remember Constantinople and I don't know, something about a Trojan horse I learned about. I don't know. Like all these all these different societies or whatever. Who knows if they're real, right?
Right.
Like they really hidden a horse and like that's how they went to war. Come on, man.
I've even seen some. I've never delved like deep into these rap. I believe, you know, obviously I know there's so much lies and falsehoods, and I know there have been like some people in the truther community that have proved like a lot of these figures that are in our history never actually existed, but they were just filled in there to fill in gaps and of course paint the picture
Yeah.
of history as far as what they want us to believe. You know, like in other words, like made up characters to fill in gaps and stuff like that. You know, which I could totally
They
believe.
do. I don't doubt that because they'll have like one guy like invent a bunch of stuff like, oh yeah, this guy was an artist, a painter, a
Yeah.
sculptor, and a scientist, you know, and he invented all this stuff, right? And you're like, what? How did one guy get all the gifts, you know? Like, why does all the art look the same? Like,
Yes.
why are you splitting it up between this many people? And why are they all from Florence? Like, it's so crazy, right? Like how they put history together. And there's no rhyme or reason for it, you know? And you're like,
Yes.
man, it wouldn't happen like that. There'd be many, many people with the skill to do that stuff. Not just one
Right.
guy can make a sculpture like that, and then no one ever in the history of the world can ever do it.
Yes.
That's
Yes. And
strange,
it's
you
like,
know?
and there's always a reason, like, of course, for everything they're doing with the deception, you know, like, of course, like Apple, for example. Wow, this guy in his garage came up with this brilliant idea. Look at what it is now, and obviously we know what it is. I mean, look at the bit out of the Apple. The first Apple computer sold for 66666, you know, and it
Yeah.
was kind of like, you know, of course, in the early stages of us, you know, computers being given to consumers on a widespread basis, but like Apple is all about making us love technology, just integrating it in such a beautiful way with all these beautiful wallpapers. Look how gorgeous this iPhone is! It's shiny and colors, and yeah, and just kind of
Yeah.
really getting it's drawn to it, you know. But so there's like always a reason, of course. But then, yeah, that's the story behind it. This, you know, wow, you can be an entrepreneur just like him, and look, you can, and this guy did it, so you can do that too. You know, look how he
Yeah.
just came this idea in his
And as
garage.
technology
You know,
gets bigger, then the stories get bigger, you know, because like Einstein, they just made like a picture. There's like a couple of the guy around, and they're like, well, he did all this, he came up with all this, but there wasn't like technology and social media. So like they didn't have to go as in depth. They just do like a background story, you know, whereas now
Couple
because of
pictures,
all our all of our access to everything, they like get really detailed and just, you know,
Yeah, like there's only like two pictures of Tesla, you know, and we all see that
right.
one, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but what's crazy is how much the demon stuff and devil stuff they put on things. Like, I mean, like you said, the price of the computer, right? And not
Yeah.
only is it like to make you fall in love with knowledge, right? But then also the apple representing the sin in the
Yes.
garden. And they make it a rainbow apple with a bite out of it, right?
Oh,
Like,
Oh, it is.
you
It
know,
was a rainbow apple. I forgot
exactly.
about that.
yes,
Yeah, it
That's
was,
right.
wasn't it?
Oh my
yes.
gosh.
It's all about your pride and eating the sin, and you
Yeah.
know. It's all like we don't see it, right? But then I don't know. See, this is what I think. I don't think it goes by how smart somebody is. Although I've seen like like some pretty sharp people in the truther community, smarter than average, I'd say. But I would say it's more of like a spell, right? Where you come out of the spell and then you see all this stuff because like there's people that I know that are brilliant. They can't figure it out. Like they can't see it, or they don't. There's something that's blocking them from understanding that there's all this symbolism that's like. But to me, it's obvious. To you, it's obvious, right? And so,
especially if you're in the truther community, like if there's all these symbols and they know the evil's real, then it's really just like it's a heart issue. Because that's what I don't understand, right? Like, as I when you're really searching for truth, that's what I was doing. I wasn't searching for Jesus, as I said. Like I was searching to figure out what was going on, and one thing led me to one thing, and one thing led me to one thing, and I just kept going down the trail. But you don't stop because none of that actually is the answer. Like whenever I got to the answer, Jesus, that's when you know, right? So it's like they're not really truthers. Like I don't know what they are. That's not a truther. If they're looking for truth, then they'll find truth. They're not. They're like looking at conspiracies and then what's the purpose? Then like I want to know what their reason is. Like if they're not just a shill, then what do they think this is all for? You know, like I see the only way I see it is they'd have to be a shill, because how can you know all of that and know that it's even for evil and all this? Then what are they hiding? If they're not hiding God, like what do they think? So I just find it hard if they don't know Jesus is the truth. I don't believe that. It can't be true. You know,
I think it's either you're a Satanist or a Christian, right? Once you hit a certain level of the truth, right? Like you have to know that God is real, right? The only way that I would say that you're not a Satanist and not a Christian is somehow you want to be in control and fight to win the world back somehow.
Exactly.
Like Pockets, I think it's like Pockets Full of Future, or Pockets, I can't remember. But like he sits there and talks about all the demonic stuff. He shows like all the symbols. He talks about, I even remember a while ago, this was like years ago. I mean, it had to been over 2 years ago, because I stopped listening once I like realized he doesn't even profess Jesus. And not because like he's a bad guy, like not for that reason, but just, you know, if you're going to take time, you know, outside of just like communing with God, then I want it to at least be about God, about Jesus, you know? And so I turned away from all that type of stuff. But like, so someone like him, he seems like a quote unquote nice guy, you know, but he talks about all those things, and he even says like it's evil, they're Satanists. But he then talks about all these other religions. And if I don't know how he is now, like I said a while ago, but
same. He's
you know, like someone like that, that confuses me. Like either
he's like spirituality is the answer to all the
but spiritual what? That's what evil is, right? Like that's a lie. Like it's obvious it's against God, it's against Jesus, like it's against the Bible, you know. And I just don't think that people are that blind where he can see everything, but he just doesn't see that. You know,
well,
I don't.
It's also specific against him. Like even the temple opening up in Abu Dhabi, you know, with the Abrahamic Accord uniting, you know, Christians, Muslims, and Jews. The Christian church there cannot have a cross on it. They can't. It can't have a cross. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's so specific, you know. And of course, there's just in so many places, you know, like of course China not being able to have Bibles, but you begin to see how it's just like a direct attack on it.
On Christianity.
Like, yes.
Like think about this. Think about the moon mission, Jake. Right? It's the Apollo moon missions. I mean, that's the name of the beast, man. Like the Apollo missions, you know. And then you got the Antichrist.
What was Vladimir's? Wasn't his rocket that he just tested called like Lucifer or something like that, or even the Vatican, the telescope they use that whatever their greatest, it's called Lucifer. Stuff like that, you know. I mean, it's just not even, you know. And of course, they got the Baphomet, the Molech statue, you know, out front. And I think they moved it by the Roman Colosseum now. But it's so.
Well, look at our Statue of Liberty. It's identical to Helios, right? Like, it's like sun god, right? So it's identical to Helios and Apollo and all these. So all these pagan gods, right? That like are like sun gods, right? At the Tower of Babel, and everyone split up, right? They all had a different name for like the Antichrist, Nimrod, right? And so they have all these names of all these statues that are all around the world, right? That look the same, just like the Statue of Liberty. And you're like, well, why would everything be named after the Antichrist in America, right? Like why specific to Revelation, right?
Yeah, but did you know any of that? Like, you notice that after, right? It's like after. Yes, that's all true. But I literally didn't realize until after after Jesus that I was able to see all this stuff. So it's not like all those things can make people I mean, it didn't me. I wasn't like, oh, I really, it's a spell. It's some type of like there's scales over our eyes. And then it's amazing though, because God he removes that where it's just so apparent. It's so obvious that you just then have that, like, you're knowing, like, you just know, you're like, oh my goodness, it's all. And then, like, he then will even reveal himself. Like, he's not hidden. I remember, I can't remember which guy I can't remember his name, but one of the really, like, really arrogant ones that is a atheist and something else. He was like, he was doing an interview. Oh, he's doing an interview with the teacher off of Wonder Years, like the guy with the glasses. And he was like, yeah. And he said, well, what would you, if you could ask God any question, what would it be? And he said, well, I'd ask him why he worked so hard to hide himself. Like, it was so smug and gross. And like, he is everywhere. Like, it was just so arrogant. And like, I don't know. It's not true. Like, we are like, and now I see him everywhere. Like, I mean, nature, creation. It's so obvious that we have a creator. It's just so obvious that I don't know how I didn't see it. So that's why there has to be some type of, there's a spell, and like the Bible tells us, we have scales.
It's got to be a spell. It's got to be a spell, because like there's something. It does feel like, and I know that people say that woke or whatever, and they've perverted that term even, but it does feel like waking up.
Yes, and this is what made me think it was a spell for sure. Is because I used to watch movies like all the time. I thought these women were so beautiful. I thought they were so gorgeous, and I was just like, wow. Yeah. And I'm serious. The second, like the next day after I was baptized in the Holy Spirit, I saw I saw on the TV, and I was like, oh my goodness, that looks like a man. Like, this woman that I always thought was beautiful, I straight up thought it looked like a man. I did not see them the same way at all. And then that's when I went down that rabbit hole. So I was like, oh my gosh,
what's crazy about that? What's crazy about that is the manliest looking ones right now are the ones I thought were the best looking back then.
Right? No, and now it's so obvious. Isn't it weird?
Like
it's so weird.
And Jennifer Aniston.
Yes, yes, I get what you're saying. And yes, and they're so manly. I know. I know, it's so strange. Like, you can't unsee it, like the jawline.
Adam's talking about like spells and all these things. Like, I totally believe that, because like, even when you read Exodus, like when Moses went to go talk to the Pharaoh, I mean, you see the magic that they could do. They could throw a staff and turn it into a snake. They can have frogs come out of water. They could do like a lot of what do they call it? Forbidden, all these hidden arts, these secret arts, or whatever however it worded, I forget. But they had magic too, and so of course that still exists today.
Today.
It's just like yes, exactly. So there is, I think that is part of not the grand illusion, but of course part of it, the hypnosis, so to speak. But you're right, like the Holy Spirit comes and breaks you out of that is, or exactly the scales. That's just like what Michael's asking about right there. I just caught that, like, the scales is like that filter over your eyes that you're not able to see, like, in truth.
Right.
But when the scales
and then
come
once
off,
the truth
you're like,
is
oh my
in
gosh,
you.
I see now.
Yes, like the truth. I could literally see the truth.
He
yes.
got his sight restored. Then the scales came off his eyes when he was blind for 3 days, which is so impressive.
Oh, good point, Joe.
Oh, wow.
And the
I
scales
love that.
came off his eyes.
Oh my goodness.
He could see, but he was blind until he received the Holy Spirit, and then the scales came off his eyes. And that's when he was.
Wow, that is so powerful. I don't know why I didn't connect that, but that does. It just, like, he was literally blind, and then, but I mean, spiritually and physically, and and wow, exactly. And then at once he could see. But it really is a change. Like, I could see everything looks so different to me, and it was because the truth lives in us now. Like, that's everything. Like, when you're born again, the truth is living inside of you. So of course you're going to see it that way.
And that's like, that's what happens, and that's what it's all about. Like, because like back to the question earlier, like, how can so many in the truther movement like discover all these things but not like come to God yet? And I think that's where ego can get in the way, which is like the page thing too, that this idea that we are God and we can be like God, and it's using the truth to attack, using the truth to like we can set up our kingdom here, we can destroy these guys, that's right, let's get rid of them, or whatever the case, and ego can start to tap into that, where you feel all knowing, you feel all powerful, or you feel like God, when in reality it's no.
But that's what they know. This is what's weird, because they know that about so they call out evil, they call out the demonic and Satanists and stuff like that, and they know that's what they believe. They know, so they're calling it out, and they know that those two, like, they believe they too will be like gods, right? So is it that really? If they're sitting there calling out, saying, well, they just want to be their own gods and they believe the lie, like they call all. Oh yeah, and they even use the Bible to back it up. That's the weirdest part. Is like a lot
Yeah,
of them will use the Bible to back up exactly what they're talking about, but then they skip all of Jesus.
they'll have a form of godliness but deny the power, right?
Yeah.
That's like, I feel like that's like, like, I don't know,
But
the
I
churches
think
I was going to, they deny the Holy Spirit.
right.
They
But I
say it was
think
for just back then and not now.
sure, there's a lot of layers to a lot of things, right? And it's like I think that part of it is that Satan sets up his own what is it? The controlled opposition, right? They own both sides of all the fights,
Oh, every
So
side, yeah.
right, and they make you feel like you have to pick a side, right? Pick a team, right? But
Right.
really, we got to separate from both sides of it, right? Like we don't want to be in the protesting group or in the elite group, right? We want to be separate from all of that. There's no equal opposite to God, right? But they've convinced us that there's a yin and a yang.
Yes.
Right.
You're so right
Right.
about that. They make it sound like, it's like a duality where there's God and Satan, but it's not. Satan
Right.
is just like like
Yeah.
nothing. Like he's not.
Two
He's
wings of
not.
the same bird.
Yeah, he's not an
Yep.
enemy. Like he's a tool. He's used as a tool. He's not an actual adversary to God. He's a tool for God, for us. In order to refine us and for to.
We let him in here, we started giving in to him.
But he could stop him right now. But he's using him. Like he's using him for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
It's literally for his purpose. Like
And
he
that's
could
where so
he could
many-
literally blow on him right now and make him disappear. But he's not gonna. He's using him, and that's why we should never be in fear of any of this. Because it's all used for our
Right.
purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, and so many of these manufactured groups are designed that way because it has truth in it, but it's like baiting into a label that was actually created by the enemy to make you feel like you're fighting on the right side, but in reality you're playing into the role that was designed by the enemy for you to fall trap into,
Right.
to stand under that banner, not under the banner of Christ. Like for example, the whole Q thing, like sure, there's some truth in there, and like wow, yeah, they get it, they see the Satanism and all this stuff, but their hope is not founded in Jesus coming back, and that
Right.
he is going to be the one restoring the kingdom. It is we are the patriots. We're going to pick up our guns. We're going to take this back, and we're going to have dominion, and get back our freedom. Like no, that's what Jesus is going to do when he comes back.
That's right.
And so it's just
Exactly.
such this slight difference there, but that's where it gets so confusing in what he does, because he puts so many truths in it, because he comes off as the angel of light, and so there will be so many truths in it to deceive, of course, to get people to go down the wrong trail.
It's almost
There's
like
a customer who she really loves. She says she loves Jesus, but she followed Q, and it's just recently. It's just very apparent now why she doesn't. She's so scared of the end times. She talks about it like she's in fear. She's in fear of dying. So I mean, ultimately, it's like so they could believe in God, but it's somewhere they like for her anyway. She doesn't trust him, like so she has fear of that instead of being excited to be able to see him, and that's why it can. That's why that part is set up. It's set up for people that because right now this would be the time when people would really like if say there wasn't other options, like people would be just running to God about that and getting closer, and like through that communion is when you really can just start to trust him and believe him and know that everything is for purpose and he has us. But instead there's like this camp where it's like, well, you can believe in God, but also don't worry, it's not the end. This man is going to save you until then. And then so they don't have to run to God out of instead they're running to be saved and hoping they're buying the lie, but it's a deception of the heart,
That's right.
it just is.
Yeah, that's always the litmus test. Like, what is Jesus being lifted up? Do they worship Jesus? And of course, that is not what that is. And that's what kind of like when it hit me, like, because I was under the spell. I was like, wow, they get it. I'm like, awesome. I was under the banner of it. And then somewhere along the lines, I'm like, wait a second. My hope is in Q, not Jesus. Wait a second. And then I started to really, I see things a lot differently and really started to see, I'm like, whoa, hold on. Something's way off here.
Yeah, but isn't that cool in itself? Like that shows you how he pulls us out. Like you were going through this deception. That's why we don't need to be scared about that. Like I mean, always pray not to be deceived, but when we stay close to him, it sometimes he'll let us go a little further, but it's for our good to teach us something in the end. But it just shows as long as we're with him, he will pull us out of these, like he's the one, the Holy Spirit, like where you started questioning, like, oh wait, what is this? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
there's just such victory in that and such joy, because how amazing is that? Like he pulls you back out, like, oh, come on, look right here, and you're like, oh, oops, my
Right.
bad. You know?
I went through the same thing with it. Jake was saying, right, when I first found out about flat Earth, this lady that I used to go to church with, like the very first person I talked to about flat Earth, accepted it right away. I thought everyone was going to be like that. It ended up being that's the only person ever, right? But I remember telling her, right, I go, well, if this Q thing is not real, right, then that's really our only chance, right? And
Yeah.
she goes, no, Jesus is the only chance. And I was like, oh, it hit me right as soon as she said it.
Oh, that's
And I'm like,
awesome.
that's what we're doing,
Yes.
man. We got to stay away. I'm like that.
Yes.
We're putting him as
I love
our
that.
savior, not God,
Oh,
right?
that is so cool. You got convicted right there. And you know
Yes,
what? That was also him,
immediate.
because she could have said that to you and you could have been like, eh. Like I've said that to the woman, for instance, that comes in the office and she doesn't want to hear it. It was, you have ears to hear, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Stop me
So
in
Could have
my
been
it's,
like, yeah,
tracks.
yeah, sure, sure.
yeah, that was like
Right.
the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit just saying, okay, it's
Yeah.
God pulling you back. So that's really
My
cool.
stomach hurt so bad. I was like, oh, what did I do? Like,
Oh, deception, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
Absolutely. See, I love
Yeah.
those shirts that are going around like the normal isn't coming back, Jesus is. I love that line. So I've been seeing
I
that
don't
like
normally
bounce
like
around.
any of that stuff, but that one is kind of funny. Like it's not,
Right?
I like
Well,
it. I like it too.
what I like about it, because I think in so many different theologies, let's say, whether it be Q, whether it be New Age, whether it be right or the left, it is kind of based on we can save ourselves, and there's something really dangerous about that, because if we're under the impression that we can save ourselves and we have the power to overthrow the enemy if we do all the right things, that's where you're not really moving on your will, not in God's will.
Right.
And all these labels are kind of doing that, and that's where what Stephanie was saying, what's also really dangerous about that is where people can have a fear of the end times, and they don't want to hear that, because no, we're not there yet. We can get our power back, we can get our freedom back, or all these things, but if you really, I think that's where people can steer from Revelation or Daniel, because there's some really sobering things to hear in there, and good things, of course, because we know our hope's founded in Christ ultimately. But when it says like that, the saints are going to be overcome, it's not saying that we're going to have, before Christ comes back, we're going to have dominion over the whole world and the churches are going to prevail and Satan. No, that's Christ is going to do that, and it's going to be by his
Right.
power, not ours. But if we think that
Right.
we can do that before Christ comes back, then we can be. That's where Satan can bait us into operating in our strength and not relying on God's. The
Yeah,
battle is
somebody
his.
was telling me that like the other day, saying there's going to be some great revival and all this stuff, right? And are you sure it's not going to be like a great falling away? Like,
See, yeah, and you know what? I always love when people say, like, talk like that, because, okay, for instance, like, whenever, like, there is an outpouring, right? And he's getting, but I feel like it's not, I love that, because there's nothing wrong with hoping that, there's a big revival and a bunch of his children come to him. But you're
right,
right, that it's not biblical. Like, truly, there's going to be a falling away. But what I did see, like, is, like, for instance, like in 2017, that's when a lot of people, 2017, 18, 19 until now, there's a lot of people that have really just woken up fast, and
well,
that is
what do you think
God. And
this revival might be? Like people going after the Antichrist, right? It's like this
it's
fake
probably, yeah.
revival,
Oh yeah, like it be
you know?
hijacked and go the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's it's in so many of the Old Testament stories, like especially Jeremiah, like that's what these priests, or the current like religious leaders, the Pharisees of the day, basically, that's what they were doing, telling people, guys, there's hope and prosperity coming, things are going to get better, don't worry. And even when Ezekiel was having a vision, and before all the wrath or the judgment came, like Ezekiel was in these rooms, like listening to him, and that's what they were saying and telling people, like, no, 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 we don't want to hear the bad stuff. Nope, we're only going to hear the good, and all that. And there's just so much deception that, and it's absolutely a false hope, that's not founded in truth.
Yeah, I think they want us to like, because there's always that desire to like, just as an autonomous creature, right? We want some control over what's going to happen to us, right? And really the test of faith is to let go and trust God, right? He says what he's going to come back and help us, and we're going to win, right? And if we trust that, we have to let go completely of everything,
See, and
really.
that is everything. Because I get the like the like just like right off, be like, okay, I'm scared of the end. Like I get that, but I don't get it now. I can understand how it can happen, but I mean, to have it now, it just means there's like a lack of a relationship where you can, when you really know him and you trust him, and it when you're with him, you know what I mean? There's nothing to be in fear of because you know him, and it really is. It's a trust where
Yes.
above anybody, anything, you trust him so much that you know there's absolutely nothing to be in fear of. So when I hear people
Yes.
say that, I really just want to be like, hey, just please commune with him, because when you know him, when you really know him, that fear is not there. It's just not.
That's right.
Yeah. And there's something so, that's the thing is the plan is absolutely perfect. It's already finished. The victory is there. We're just walking towards that. The hope is there.
Right.
All of it. We are going towards that. But of course, where these false hopes, actually what it really is overriding, trying to supersede God's plan and trying to interject our will and saying, wait a second, actually, no, hold on, this is what your plan says, but I want this now. No, maybe this should be this way
Right.
now, or no, we can do this, or no. That is not being sober minded. That is wanting your will to be done.
Right. That's right.
Versus and superseding God's plan. But when you really just surrender, and really accept His word and really understand His narrative and what He's doing here, there's so much truth in it. There's so much freedom. There's a hope beyond. That's that joy that surpasses all understanding, because we know exactly where we're at and what's going on and why He's doing
Right.
what He's doing. And
It's
Satan
not.
loses all his power over you there, because that the spell's gone. He can't. We already know the narrative of what's going to happen. And he can't deceive us there.
Yeah, and see, the thing is that there's nothing to really be afraid of, right? Because the things are the way they are because it has to be that way. It's written. Like the devil's, he's confined to that too, right? Like,
Yes.
so like I used to think that these elite people were using the Bible as their playbook, right? But I think whether they know it or not, right, it is written, and that's what has to be done. Like it will happen whether they know about it or not, because it's written. The Bible came like the creation came before the written word, right? It was done. Then we got the Bible, right? Now we have a finished book, right? And so we
It's
know
when he
what's going to
speaks it,
happen. Creation's done. It's been done, right? From front to back, right?
It's no different than like the Tower of Babel. They thought they could beat God, and obviously what happened, nothing happened. And so it's the same thing at the Battle of Armageddon that is going to happen in a similar sense. Like, yes, they're falling into God's plan, but they think that they're going to win.
Yeah, they can't think
and think about how small that is when you read that about the Tower of Babel. Like, it seems like so insignificant. I think that's why a lot of people don't realize how we're talking about how did Christians not see that there was even a conspiracy. The first, it's like in the Bible, but it's so funny because it's just like there's not a ton on it, right? But it really was a big deal. But that's how insignificant it is to God. He's so almighty. Like, none of this stuff is anything to Him. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not a challenge. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, He has it. And let's say it's not even because it's written that like we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry because He's our living Father. He's with us every second, and He's not, He's the one that's in charge of this. Like he's using Satan for His purpose, but nothing is outside of His control, and we are in the palm of His hands. He loves us, and that's all I need to know. Like the Creator, who is in charge of all this, He loves us, and I don't need to know. Like however it goes, I know it's going to be exactly how it's supposed to, and the one who loves us is in control. So there's not going to be any fear there,
And He gives us so much. Like there's always things. I mean, His hand is everywhere. I mean, of course, like on an individual scale in our lives, between us, the fellowship, all that. But even when you get into the realm of prophecy, you start looking at the luminaries. You start looking at things that He has done. I mean, His divine hand is just all over the place, and you can just see it. It's absolutely incredible. And that's where,
And then you obviously nothing's a challenge. I mean, he had the whole world against him. Just mixed everybody up and said, oh, "Okay, I'll roll with Abraham, and we'll start from one to everybody else." Right? And
right. And who knows what it looks like how it actually affected all the people. Like it was probably a huge deal, but it's not. There's not much about it because it doesn't really matter. God won the end.
That's right.
Hey, woohoo! And Michael. Hey, Michael. Sorry.
Yeah. No, and it makes you feel comfortable because you're like, Well, not only is it, we have a finished Bible, right? And not only is it front to back done, and creation was done front to back before we got it, right? Before we got here, right? And so, I mean, all it comes down to is trusting him, right? But believing in what he did for us on the cross and trusting him that it's going to happen. I mean, that's to want to jump into the narrative to save that is not reality. It's not real. God's trying to offer something real, and people want something that they have a hand in, or that they're part of, or that they are doing it their way, or bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, when that's not true. Like we're raised and corrupted to think that way, right? But it's not true,
It reminds me when Jesus had to go flee from the people because he knew that they were going to try to seize him and make him their king right then and there. They're thinking like, all right, yeah, we're going to set up the kingdom. We're going to get arms and swords, and we're going to take these Romans out. All right, you're going to be our king. And that's not what it was about. He was there to save the soul. And sure, yeah, he could have done that, but would that have saved their souls, or transformed their hearts?
Right.
No, that's the business. He's about his Father's business. We know.
That's
and then
right.
our Father's about saving souls.
No, it just makes me feel so like all this stuff that we brought on ourselves, right? And he took the punishment on himself. Like, I mean, it's like not like, it's not like it was like, okay, everyone's off the hook. I'm not holy, I'm shady, right? It's no, you got to see what this is costing you to do what you want to do in life, right? You either live by the template, which is better for you anyway, right? Or there's a punishment to be paid for that. And I can't believe people could say, oh, well, I'm not a sinner. I can't be like what do I need to be punished? Like, you're not being punished, dude. Even if you do admit it, like what more could you ask God to do, And, we didn't just pop here out of nowhere. That's stupid. So, find a creator that's better than what we got, I mean, it's so absurd to even go down those even conversations. It's like, it's so absurd, man. Like, forget about how it happened, right? Why would this even happen? Why, where would the space be to put everything? Like why would this happen out of nowhere naturally? That's dumb, man.
Well, we're finding a different issue than they did before, because it wasn't an issue of, is there a God? Before, it was like, who is the God, right? Like, there was a plethora of gods to choose from, like even the moon, stars, like they worshiped everything, and then like they just flipped that around and then made it like so, like, by telling us that this the shape of the earth and everything, making it against how it would be if there was a God, to where it's so weird to think that now there's people that actually question. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, is there even a God? Like, how ignorant is that? Like,
I know.
Like, that was never a question before. You know what I mean?
Think about how evil you have to be to start that with young children, teaching them they just pop out of nowhere, and there's little bugs that make you sick, and you come from a monkey, and you got to be afraid of everything, and there's rocks flying, hitting the earth, and come on, man, that's evilness. And then to get people, well-meaning people, that think that they're doing something good, right? Like teaching kids, right? And they're doing like a lovely job at it, right? And they're teaching them lies, and they don't even know it, right? Yeah. It's heartbreaking. Multiple generations of heartbreaking stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's
people
evil.
You're around more than your own family. Like, I saw my teacher more than I did my family. You're with them all day, and you build a rapport and a bond, and you love them and you look up to them.
Yeah. Like, why would they lie to me?
It's very purposeful. It's very, and that you exactly. And that's where everything started with me. I was like, well, of course she wouldn't lie to me. I thought there was my heart in my stomach, just fourth grade. Like, and I didn't have a family where I could run home and be like, hey, the teacher said this, I'm sure some did, and that's amazing. But there are others like me that didn't, like, they didn't have, a family that knew God, or, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the thing that started.
I just accepted it. I just figured, I came home. My mom she said she's been a Christian this whole time, right? I never really knew it until just recently, but I mean, she wasn't outspoken about
Right.
it, right? Like,
Right.
so I mean, yeah, we celebrated Christmas and she did talk about Jesus and listened to some gospel songs that she liked, right? But it was nothing like what you would, expect a Christian to be like. And so when I came home and I said, "Hey, look, this we learned about dinosaurs and the sun is a star and all this other stuff, right? And other planets." Right? She was like, "Oh, that's good, honey, but that's so great that you learned all that stuff." And I'm like, "Oh man, like just think of how many. Oh, thank God that God is in charge, right? Because there were so many ways I could have lost myself, right? With all this confirmation from people that I trusted that all this was real, that there's really a
It goes back.
Stegosaurus,
It goes back to yeah. There's really a
you
that's right.
know.
And a Megatron out
I
there
got
walking
a,
around
I
somewhere,
got
right?
a, I got a, what do you call it? The construction paper with the Stegosaurus I made at
Oh
school.
man.
You know,
Yeah, that's right, dude. I remember, you know what? I mean, I remember looking around, wanting to look around in my backyard to see a bunny rabbit hopping around, a real life one, the Easter bunny, man. I was excited to see him. I was looking for him, like
right?
thinking I'm really
Yeah.
gonna see it. I remember my buddy and I, he came over. He really thought he saw him, and we were just on a hunt for him, and we were, it wasn't a fairy tale. Like we legitimately were thinking we're gonna hang out with him.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
it's
because he
sick.
takes our innocent hearts. Think about that. Like, it just really hit me how evil that is. Because we, like he said, unless you're like this child, like, because children have this innocent heart. I did that too, and it seems silly, but we believe
Yes.
what we're told, and we believe there's something. So that's why they can believe so wholeheartedly in Jesus Christ, right? And that is the
Right.
whole point, is to like tell them all these silly little things because they know that kids are going to believe them because they believe they're the big people. And they have a heart, they have that innocence there, right? And
Yes.
then we take it and we just literally just kick them with it. Like, okay,
Right.
that's not real. And people think, well, my kid didn't cry, he wasn't upset, but the whole point is maybe it wasn't even like, oh, they were so upset then, but it definitely then makes it to where, well, then why Jesus sounds even more amazing than that. We get to go to heaven, right? Like, that's even more amazing than getting presents under a tree. So if none of that was
Right.
true, then how in the world could that be true?
Right.
It's like it goes back to that first commandment, like love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, because God cannot lie. He absolutely cannot, does not,
Right.
will not. He is only truth. He is only good. He is only pure. He's love. And of course, when Satan gets us when we're young and innocent, when our hope is founded in man. Of course, when we're immature
Yeah.
and young, and wants to try to ruin that innocence, to take away that hope and that faith, of
Yeah,
course.
and
But
like
that's
and like
the
like
power of God's
Santa
word.
Santa has jumbled up Satan, right? Then the word
Yes.
Satan jumbled up, and then they say, okay, we're celebrating Jesus's birth by decorating this tree and bringing it in the house, when it's specifically in the Bible like a curse, right? Like they make us do things against him, right? And say that we're honoring him. Like they twist it, and they take everything innocent about us, right? And they have us doing evil crap, and not even on purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, what do we got to
Yeah.
get out of here. We don't belong here,
Well, you
man.
know what?
But that's the
You know
joy
what?
of it,
That's
though,
the
is like
praise
you have
God.
to
Our
be with us
scales are
now.
lifted
You know,
to but you know what? And there is, like that's what Jesus said. Like when we start to see all these things come to pass, of course, all the things we're talking about, all the signs, lift up our heads, our mouth and eye. And I think we can absolutely do that right now in this season, lift up our heads, because we know where we're going, and we can have joy now, as a result of that, because he's here with us, and he's amongst
right?
us, and the Holy Spirit
We
is,
have
and
to.
so,
Like, if
and
we
it's
love
like,
people,
praise
other
God, he
people's souls
removed the
count on it.
scales from our eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like your
Thank
eye is the
God.
lamp of the body, and like now we can see God. We can see, like Stephanie was saying, and like we were talking about earlier, seeing creation, seeing love, just seeing so many things where you can start to see God all over the place now, whereas we could not
Everywhere.
before. That's the
Yeah.
incredible part. I can see his plan. I can see the redemptive story. I can see his word, his prophecy, his you can start to see him all over the place now, and there is so much joy in that. Whereas before, when the scales were over our eyes, that wasn't even, we were under the spell. We didn't comprehend it, understand it. Sure, maybe we said we believed it, but we didn't really know. Of course, yeah, we
Yeah.
were still ignorant of the truth. And by God's grace, of course, those scales have been lifted from our eyes, and I think that is the joy and the gift of life. To be able to choose. Blessed are those that believe and have not seen. the gift of faith to choose him because we want to understand the fullness of his love and experience this life, and in turn grow closer to each other and closer to God. It really is a gift.
Beautiful.
Right.
All righty, guys. Well, it's time to hit that old dusty trail. Thank you guys for coming on. I'm so grateful for you guys. I can't wait till the day that we all get to meet. It's that's gonna be one of the greatest days of my life.
Yes, I know. I'm like, man, you guys actually have legs. This is crazy. It's gonna be incredible.
I'll be all glorified.
I'm just gonna be all shiny and sparkling. Don't mind me.
Yeah, really. I'll be shining like a star. It's all good.
Oh my goodness! I want to not actually have legs.
I know it.
Oh, that's funny because I really don't know.
You got to carry me around. I don't have legs.
No, I mean when we're glorified, I don't really know what our glorified body looks like. I'm assuming we do, but what if we're like making a joke about that and it's really like, plus I don't think we're gonna be focusing on that anyways. We're gonna be just like bowing down in front of him and not,
as long as I'm clean and I'm like sturdy, I don't care. I just want to be like, something that looks like it'll last forever,
Thank you. As long as we get to be with the Lord, that's
yes,
right there.
Amen.
That's all I need. I'm with the Lord.
I can't
Hallelujah.
wait.
Yes, exactly.
All right, guys.
Be in His presence.
Good night.
All right. Yeah. See you guys in the AM.
All right. See you later, buddy. Yeah. Praise Jesus for His sacrifice and His grace. All glory to God because He deserves it. And pray for the children. Pray for anyone being victimized out there. Pray for each other. It's important. And Lord willing, I will see you guys tomorrow at 6 a.m.